Hey everybody, Casey here. This episode is all about my greatest golf disappointment. And had a challenging day today, so it's probably fitting. But interesting conversation when you bring that up with your buddies, talking about your greatest disappointments. It's sort of a backwards thing. Most people don't want to talk about that stuff, but it sure as hell makes for interesting conversation. Give it a try.
This is the Golf Essentials Podcast with Casey Borg.
Had a pretty challenging day today. Just one of those days where you're just grinding and working and just didn't feel like I got a ton accomplished and didn't get out to the golf course or anything today. But I was just thinking back one day when I played a great round of golf at a place called Pine Canyon when I lived in Arizona. Really a wonderful club, private club in Flagstaff, and played with some real good dudes, real successful guys, and good foursome. And we got done, and one of the guys invited us in to have a couple beers or something afterwards, and it was a really interesting thing. One of the older gentlemen in the group, we sat down in the locker room, sort of the men's grill area, and he, we just got talking, and he brought it up. He said, okay, you guys want to have a real interesting conversation. Let's go around the table and each of us tell about their greatest golf disappointment. Interesting. Not where I thought that would be going at that point in time. And man, he was right. It was a super interesting conversation. People, opened up and shared, from their heart, things that didn't go well in their life. And I thought, given the challenging day I've had today, I thought I'd share the story that I revealed that day. And, it's sort of one of those first world problems, but I'll never forget it. And it was definitely the most disappointing, emotionally disappointing, days, or I guess moments in my golf life. And so this was back when I was, let's see, I won the Maine State Amateur Championship when I was 18 years old. And so that was a cool deal. Then I went to college, and the very next year, I think it was the next year. No, it was 2 years after that. So there was 1 year in between, and 2 years after that. So anybody up in New England, or my Maine friends there, they know Kibo Valley Country Club really well. One of the country's oldest golf courses. I think it's the 8th oldest golf course in the country. It's up in Bar Harbor, and super cool little track. And so that was where the Maine Amateur Championship was being held that particular year. Like I said, I had won 2 years previous, and I had naturally had a bunch of expectation on me, and I had talked in previous episodes about that expectation and the expectations that I was putting on myself, and how much stress that was putting on myself. But anyway, that tournament was really interesting because I remember feeling. Remember, if you listen to any of my stuff, I had real bouts with the yips, and for that tournament, a lot of people that know me in Maine would have no idea that I ever struggled with the yips, because people back there just seemed to know me as like the world's best putter. Little do they know that I was ready to quit golf because I was not able to, comfortably knock in a 1-foot putt. But that event at Kibo Valley, that was in 1997, it must have been, and 97 or 98. So I was really nervous going into that tournament. I just was not comfortable, and so it's a 54 hole tournament, and I don't know how many players, maybe 130 players or something like that, and then they cut to like 60, and then off you go for the last round. So 36 holes, then a cut, and so I actually don't really remember how I played in the first two rounds. I guess it must have been okay, because heading into the final round, I was one shot or two shots off the lead. And there was sort of a bunch of us. There was like 5 or 6 guys within a shot or two of the lead. So it was a sort of a bunched up pack there. And one of the guys was a guy named Mark Plummer, who's really is famous in Maine. He's won the state amateur a million times. He took Tiger Woods to the final hole, to the 18th hole in the semifinals of the U.S. Amateur, or quarterfinals of the U.S. Amateur a number of years ago. So if he almost beat Tiger, and that would have gotten him into no, it was the semifinals, because I know if he would have beaten Tiger, he would have gotten into the Masters and the U.S. Open and all that. So crazy stuff, but he ended up losing. But he's very well known. He was in the field. And so heading into the final round, I was a shot or two off the lead. And again, still not feeling super... You're never very confident when you've got a real glaring weakness in your game, and I was able to cover it up a little bit. My putting was really nerve-wracking on the greens, but believe it or not, I was hitting a lot of my putts with my eyes closed, and that helped me through impact. And I was purely just focusing on setup and alignment, and the stroke itself was with my eyes closed most every putt. So I ended up playing really solid through the first half of the round, and ended up having, I had a 4-shot lead standing on the 16th tee. So I had a 4-shot lead with 3 to go, and I was in the last group, and so I had basically played, I must have had it under par that day. And so I had sort of, out of that grouping at the top, it was super cool, right? You're playing in a 54-hole tournament, and it's a big group at the top, and then you're playing better than anybody, and you sort of stretch out ahead. And man, that had the makings for just a really fun day, because I had a bunch of people that were there. A bunch of my friends had come up and watching, and we were having some fun in between rounds and stuff. So it was just a really cool trip, and I was playing well enough, and I had a 4-shot lead with 3 to go. And so from my point of view, from that point, I lost the tournament. And I can looking back, I can honestly say that I didn't choke. It was in fact, and I would tell you if I did, but it was actually an overconfidence sort of thing. I hit every shot with authority and conviction. It was just the wrong shots, and I'll explain. So the 16th hole is a very short par 4. I laid it up, wedged it on, and I had like 15 feet downhill for birdie. And so this was great position to be in. It was a little downhill, and in my head, I was totally seeing red at this point. Like, I talked about having the yips, but I was in such a good rhythm and playing so well, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to make this thing, and I hit it 3 or 4 feet past, and then missed it coming back, and boom, there's an easy bogey. And so no big deal. They don't have leaderboards out there or anything, but it was just sort of a dumb mistake, and it doesn't take much. And so just a little dumb mistake, a little overzealous. And the 17th hole at Kibo is a famous hole. It's a par 4. real good hole. You got to hit it out there like 250 or whatever, and then it's like straight up this hill, and the entire hill is like this bunker thing, and the green sits perched up on top. And so I hit it out there, and I remember having a bad lie in the fairway, but I got it up on the hill, and it was just on the front edge of the green. The pin was in the back, and I had about a I don't know, 40 or 50 footer or something, and I hit my putt, left myself like 5 feet, not a very good putt. I remember hitting it past the hole, and I missed the comebacker. And again, I never felt nervous, but it just happened, And I remember walking off 17. Now I'm starting to feel a little stressed, right? So it was super comfortable, cruise control, writing my victory speech, and now I'm like, what the hell? Like, pretty stressed out. And I remember walking to the 18th tee, which is a straightaway par 4, short par 4. And there was this guy there, and you main guys, and who knows, maybe Tom gets wind of this, but Tom Bean, a guy that I knew, I worked with him at one country club, at Dune Grass Country Club, and a guy that I knew, he had played in the tournament, he was done, and he was coming back and watching, and I remember him coming, he ran right up to me, hey, Case, you want to know where you stand? Bop, 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 bop. And he's, people that know him know that maybe that's kind of how he is, and I'm like, I'm not in the mood to hear it. But I'm just walking. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And he says, par to tie, birdie to win. And I was like, okay. No. I'm sorry. He didn't say par to tie. He says, you got to make birdie to get in the playoff. And I think that's what it was. What was it? It was par to tie, birdie to win. Sorry, I'm screwing it up, but it was he was so wired up, and he just felt the need that he had to give me the update, and I said, yeah, sure, Tom, and he said, yeah, par to tie, birdie you win, Case. I'm like, all right, or whatever. So I striped one down the middle. I remember I had a 1-iron, which was perfect for that course. I could hit it dead straight, maybe 220 or 230 or something. I hit it out there, and I remember being right behind the 100-yard plate, and had a little. I remember having I had 110 uphill, and a good buddy of mine, John Jakes, I had him on. He was a high school golf coach, and he was my caddy. Good friend, knows my game really well, and we were out there in the fairway, and we knew where we stood. And I was just a kid. I hadn't played a ton and whatever, but that's normally a gap wedge for me. It's up the hill, and buck 10. I think I had a little wind behind me, and the pin was over on the right side of the green, and I said, you know what, Johnny, I'm going to hit the sand wedge just because I was feeling good. I was hitting it well, and I was jacked up, and both fired up from the previous bogeys and stressed. And there's a bunch of people sitting up there watching, and it's the last hole of the tournament. And so I hit sand wedge and flushed it. I hit it perfectly, and right in the middle of the club face, and I was right. I must have been jacked up because it basically airmailed the green. It landed in the back fringe and hopped up into the rough, which is like sort of an embankment behind the green, and the flag was down on the right side. And when I saw that ball land up there, I knew that I had no chance I was either going to make it, like hit the pin, or I was making bogey. There was no chance for me to hold the green where the pin was. And, even to sort of play it out sideways, I really had no options up there. And of course I, tried to pitch it on. I hit a good pitch, but it rambled past the hole, and there was my third bogey. And I had a 4-shot lead with 3 to go, and turns out that 2 of the guys, Mark Plummer and the eventual winner, Eric Kraus, had birdied either one or two of the last three holes. So the combination of my 3 bogeys consecutively and their birdies put them each one shot ahead of me and in a playoff. And I was devastated for an hour or so. I mean, I still think about it, but it was just an amazing thing to literally hit each shot without worry. I wasn't worried or stressed, but man, little things were a little out of whack and things just didn't go my way. And there's a little mistake there, a little mistake there, and a little mistake, and I didn't get away with any of them. And 3 bogeys, and those guys birdied, and they each birdied 2 of the last 3 to my 3 bogeys, and just crazy. A 4-shot lead with 3 to go. I'll never forget that. And I was devastated. There were reporters that wanted to talk to me after I was done, and I had to just, again, I was a kid, but it was a big deal to me, and I had to go hide out for like 5 minutes and just sort of regroup. I went to the bathroom and just sort of caught my breath, and I just couldn't believe it. I was so devastated, and sort of pulled it together and came out, and then of course reporters and things want to talk to you and stuff. But the good news was that I had a bunch of my friends there, and people from back in Biddeford, Cy Sear and Matt Berthium, and I think Darren Gilrow was there, and a few of my buddies, and we were at Bar Harbor, and we were all smiles and goofing off shortly thereafter. But man, if that one didn't sting. And these are the things when you play competitive golf and you put yourself out there and you get into position, and things were great for 51 holes, 51 and a half holes, until I got on that 16th green and had that 15-footer downhill, and could have easily just lagged that thing down there and tapped it in for par and keep cruising. But I guess I wasn't quite mature enough to think along those lines, and it cost me, But these things happen, and I think it's important. Like, I'm probably better off for it. I probably learned a ton. I know I learned a lot more from losing that tournament than I would have if I had won it. And I'm sure that taught me to never count those chickens. And so I'm sure it's helped me do other things, play better in other tournaments. Whereas if I had won, who knows what happens, right? But that's my super disappointment, my biggest disappointment playing golf. And I would recommend if you're sitting around with the guys after a round of golf and you want to open up a little dialogue and get people to sort of bare the skeletons in their closet a little bit, that's a decent question to ask them. And I know in our discussion it turned into a 45-minute discussion where everybody sort of shared their stories and playing in the member guests and embarrassments and whatever. Everybody's got those things, and I think it's cool to talk about it. And it's important to know that everybody's human, and golf is really, really freaking hard. So keep that in mind. It sure as hell makes you appreciate the good days. And so today was a challenging one for me, but it makes the good ones feel that much better, right? So hope you guys saw a little value in that story. And I'd love to hear, not just your disappointments, but hey, if you did something great and you want to talk about it, I'd love to have you on the show. And just hit me up, ask me some questions. I love the engagement. I love answering your questions. A lot of them on Facebook, some of them on Twitter, stuff like that. And that stuff is that's where I'm getting the stuff that I want to be talking about. So if you got anything, just shoot it over, and it'll become episodes. It'll become discussions. I'll have you on, and you can talk about it yourself, or we can talk about it. So hope you guys like this stuff, and I'm heading to bed, and I appreciate you all for listening very, very much, and hope to hear from you soon.